Good morning and welcome to the third episode of Lights Out and Away We Mow. As it's becoming the tradition with these videos, I need to start with an apology, and it's quite simply for the huge time gap between episode 2 and this episode, and a particular apology to the thousands of people that I'm sure were frantically refreshing YouTube in pure desperation that this video was going to drop. So with that over, let's get on to what I'm doing today. I am driving to the opening race of the British Lawnmower Racing Association season 2026, and sadly I won't be racing. The same delays that apply to this video have applied to the build of Jason MaMower. Not all of them were my fault, some of them probably were. Namely, just underestimating how much time everything takes to do. Even if I apply the guesstimate the time frame, double it and double it again, tried and trusted formula, I still fell short of my intended deadline, which was today. The other delays, work and life getting in the way, and cash flow restrictions, which I'll come back to in a moment. So I'm going to this race event purely as a spectator, and in a change to what was my original plan, if I'm honest, although the original plan changed. I don't even know which one was the original plan now. It changed so many times. Anyway, we should probably go back to where we left off in video 2. So I had got Jason home, stripped him bare, so he was nothing but a chassis, rear arches, bonnet and dashboard assembly. And the next job really is gathering. So it turns out if you want to turn a 1970s decrepit, non-driving wheel horse garden tractor into a state-of-the-art racing machine, there's a lot of gathering of stuff. Some of it new, most of it old and repurposed. But the first thing I managed to acquire involved a trip to MOW mowers, where I got to, well, a couple of things. Firstly, I got to see the headquarters itself and have a snoop around the mower that Ricky was building. Callum's mower, Ralph, was already there, and as a bonus, we had planned on having a little blast in it around the field. Sadly, the weather was absolutely horrendous, and me being a proper southern softie, we just rolled Ralph back into the barn and called it a day. But I did come home with a few bits. I got some wheels and tyres, and most excitingly and importantly, I got a front end with stub axles. Sadly, that front end had a bit of a curve in it, a bend which wasn't quite even across it, so I've had to scrap that one and rebuild my own. But the stub axles, which were the important part, were all really good and reusable. So I got those from Ricky. I think by the time I got back, the other things I'd ordered had already arrived. Not very exciting or substantial, but there was a fuel tank, 4.5 litre maximum as per the regulations, and a shiny steering wheel. And then it was a case of, let's scour around the sheds and the garden, see what else I've got lying around that would be of use, and then hit the internet for a bit more shopping. So I managed to repurpose an old screen printing carousel that I haven't used for many a year and am increasingly unlikely to use ever again. And some of the steel, the springs, bearings, various bits and pieces from it proved to be incredibly useful. I also, luckily, but much to the disgust of most of my family and neighbours, had this huge stainless steel fridge still in my garden that I fully intended to take to the tip probably for about the last 4 or 5 years. It might even have been longer than that, but it's just been in a corner of my garden. But amazingly, it was in incredible condition. So I managed to cut large sheets of both steel and aluminium from that, which I've managed to repurpose for the side plates, and a lot of it I've still got left to discover what it will be used for over the next few days and weeks. In addition to me playing Stig at the Dump around my neighbourhood, I did also order metal that was required for unarguably the biggest job of all, which is building the whole rear frame that attaches to the chassis and holds the wheel hubs, brakes, T-drive, which in turn holds the top hat, pulley, belts, etc. Has to be incredibly strong, integrated within some pretty strict parameters of the regulations, and involved a lot of welding. So I got myself a little welder and began on my welding education, which I have to say is equally the most frustrating and the most satisfying thing anyone can ever try. There were as many times where I wanted to just scrap the whole thing, set fire to the shed, and pay particular attention to the welder with a sledgehammer, as there were moments where I was practically high-fiving myself because it just worked. So the end result is this frame, actually, which feels incredibly solid. Now, I'm not going to kid myself because I haven't stress tested any of this in what will be the normal environment, which is basically bouncing over a rutted field at high speed. But it seems incredibly solid, and albeit really, really ugly welds, it turned out much better than I was expecting. I fully anticipated having to call in a professional. It may still prove that I have to do that, but at the moment I'm happy with it. Bit of spray paint just to try and hide the pure ugliness of the welding that I'd done. Didn't work. The spray paint seems to have drawn more attention to it, if anything else. But anyway, that was the major job done. I then went about building the new front end, because if you remember...
In 1 mile, arrive at your destination.
1 mile was that? Oh. Okay, I'm going to pause here then. Let's go and watch some races. If I can remember where I left off here, we'll pick it back up again when I get back in the car.
Jensen cross up front, revving the engine there, tries to get away cleanly, which he does. So they'll into the first corner.
This is absolutely sick. It's a tiny little course, but really twisty, with some ups and downs, which probably don't come across on camera. But also the speed won't come across on camera, but these guys are flying. Even these little Group 2s that are about to come past me now, I know they look slower on camera, but look, watch this, ready? I hope that doesn't look really pedestrian, because genuinely, they're sliding it about. It looks really good. Oh, what a day, look at this.
So Jensen Creswell takes the lead. Mike Lee is about to take second place, so Charlie Thurston takes third. Way down the back there, at the bottom of the track, are the fastest three in reverse order. So everyone can keep an eye on, see whether they can win this race. But leading the way, Josh on the 13 machine, second place Tom Posey, third place Devon Saunders. Right, so we'll get these Group 4s lined up. I think we've got about 20 of these machines out. Lights have been activated. And the lights go over and go racing. And away they go. So 1, 2, 5 takes the lead. Number 11 was in second. 63 still holding on at the minute, but 89 all over the back.
if I could get one of these through BLMRA regulations. Now this is what it's all about. I'm sitting trackside. The Group 4's going around at the moment. Bought myself a little folding chair, crispy duck wrap, and the world's smallest, most expensive coffee. There's Callum, number 82. Callum McIntyre, that is, not McGough. So I'm just going to park myself here for a while, enjoy the sunshine, get a tan, eat some food, watch some mowers. Oh, that was horrible. I just, whilst tucking into my duck and hoisting wrap, witnessed a really horrible accident right in front of me. I didn't have the camera running, which I'm kind of glad about, but also I know if I was one of the drivers, who both, thankfully, seemed absolutely fine. One was pretty seriously winded, but paramedics came over and did all the checks. But I do know if I was one of the racers, I'd have quite liked to have had this as a poster. It was pretty dramatic. Two came together on this corner right in front of me, and they both, I assume, wheels kind of interlocked and were very airborne, like seriously high, one of them, and thankfully the mowers didn't land on either of them. That was the biggest fear from what I saw. But like I say, they both seem to be fine. I think they're made of tough stuff, these guys. I think they're going to be patched up and sent out again. Oh, and I did meet a really nice chap called Chris, who threw his phone down and sprinted to the scene of the accident. Chris, if you're watching, hello mate, really nice to meet you. I've never seen a grown man move so fast, so well done on your hasty response. Speaking of Chris, there he is. Number 255. Okay, that is officially the coolest thing. Although I am equally as scared as I am excited about the prospect of doing it myself. But it's absolutely brilliant. Not every day is going to be like this. Dry, sunny, carnival atmosphere. I would imagine there are many more days where it's pissing down with rain and everyone just wants to get it over and done with and go home. But it's so cool, so cool. I think cool's the right word. Anyway, I'm out of breath because it's quite a long walk back to the car, which is where I'm heading now. And then if I can remember what I've already said and was talking about, I'll try and pick up from where I left off regarding the build of Jason MaMower. Do you know what? I think I'm going to have to watch back some of the footage from the drive here so that I don't just repeat everything I've already said. I'm going to try a different camera position. That last one was a bit unstable, I think. Not sure if this will be any better, but right, so I left it at me building the front end due to an unfortunate bend in the one I had. So using a piece of what seems like tons of steel box section that I'd bought, remade the axle, welded on the sticky uppy bits, welded on some other sticky uppy bits that bolt it onto the front of the chassis, fitted the stub axles, and then set about making the steering mechanism, which this is where another real benefit of mine came into play, and that is the use and access to a 3D printer, either for printing parts that are going to be actually used on the mower, or in this particular case for prototyping for something that will later be built with a stronger material. So I was able to print out various shapes and sizes and positions for the, I'm going to call it the steering bracket, I don't know what it's actually called, but the bit at the front that goes on the axle in the middle, and the track rods will attach to it. And I managed to make a few variations of it with different adjustments for geometry before finally using that template to cut out and drill the steel piece that's being used now. So that was really useful. I have also used the 3D printer for parts like the pedal system, which is adjustable and replaceable and easily reprintable. And for this next sentence, it's probably going to trigger more
comments of concern than anything else, but I've also printed a top hat. A top hat, which is being mounted to the rear pulley, which is currently with a fabricator being bored out so that the top hat will fit within it. And before you worry too much, yes, I'm concerned as well, but I'd spoken to a couple of guys at the BLMRA AGM who have done exactly that to great success. They ran a 3D printed top hat in the 12-hour race and beyond without any problems. So I know there are going to be variations in printing techniques and structure and design and all the rest of it, so one may work and another not. But I've tried a few variations of it, or I say I have a few variations of it to try once I get the pulley back, so I can see what does and doesn't work. If it is a complete failure, then yes, I will have to look at a more traditional alternative. But this situation was kind of forced on me, in as much as top hats are like gold dust. They're just impossible to get hold of. No one's making them anymore, no one's selling them, and they're just not available. So this was a sort of option Z, but it might prove to be absolutely brilliant. But other things like brackets for fitting on sort of non-stressed parts and things like that, the 3D printer has been absolutely brilliant. So front end done and fitted to the chassis. What was next? Probably steering. So, oh no, let's carry on with the gathering, the copious amounts of scouring and shopping that needed to be done. So, as I alluded to before, it's predominantly bits of metal, sheets of steel, box section, angle iron in various thicknesses and dimensions, and tools really. And then I've bought 2 seats, because I brought one very, very cheap basic seat, which is super lightweight and actually surprisingly comfortable, if not a little bit snug, which I might actually still use for sprint events. But because I've managed to get everything so far within budget, so far, I then treated myself to a much more plush, comfortable seat, which is a lot heavier, but is really comfortable. It's more width to it, obviously much better padding. It's very solid, which is why it's heavy. So I've got 2 seats. What else was there? Brakes. I've bought a master cylinder, caliper, disc, hoses, kit. It might be crap. It's a bit bargain basement, but again, this is all so much suck it and see for me, and it looks really nice. Right, back to the 3D printer. I've printed the pulleys for the clutch and then used some bearings, existing bearings in those pulleys, which fit like a glove, so they look like they're going to work really well. All of this unfortunately can't be set up properly until I've got the axle in, so I can position the top hat with the pulley to run the belt to the front pulley on the engine, and obviously through all the clutch pulleys. So I'm kind of hamstrung at the moment, waiting for pretty much the axle was the determining factor here as to when I can get this all built up. Coming back to budget, and I mentioned cash flow earlier, I self-imposed, I say self-imposed, it was an idea I had which my wife was very, very much on board with. I was going to fund this entirely from any available funds outside of my regular work-based income. So that meant the bulk of it was going to be sell things from previous hobbies to fund this new hobby, which worked out very nicely in as much as I had a nice bike which did the lion's share of that, so I sold that, albeit I definitely didn't see all of that money, so I do need to have a word with my wife, otherwise known as my accountant, because I definitely didn't spend all of that money on mower stuff. But then it's things like the Twitch account, which might seem like just a silly little amount every month or so, but when it's applied directly to mower parts, goes a lot further than I imagined. So a quick thank you to everybody that subscribes to my Twitch channel, and I will do a shameless plug here. check out Lightning Magoo on Twitch. It's mainly sim racing content, but I have been including some more mower stuff recently with some live builds from the shed, and intend to do some more live stuff, mower related live stuff on there as we go into the season and the build continues. But things like that, t-shirt sales, cap sales, and I got really lucky in as much as I uploaded a collection of photographs to Shutterstock and Adobe Stock and a few other stock libraries, and I just never check it, and it turns out I had a few £100 sitting in those accounts. So that is why I've got I'm not going to go into the exact budget yet because I don't know it. I don't know the total cost, because I want to include things like spray paints and the tools I've bought and things like that, but at the moment it's all very vague in my head. So I'll do a proper breakdown in another video. But what I do know is that those were funds that I absolutely wasn't expecting, and with my very basic calculations in my head, I'm well within what I anticipated it costing, which is why I bought that other comfy seat, my luxury item. Oh, I've just remembered what my first purchase was, and this was much to the hilarity / disgust of my so-called friends. I bought a couple of shock absorbers for the seat suspension, and they are intended, I believe, for use on electric scooters, but seeing as it's not for any kind of handling or proper suspension, it literally is just to give my backside a little bit more cushioning, I thought it'd be fine, and they were £6 each. So they are fitted now to my newly constructed frame, and after again some adjustments, not through 3D print prototyping this time, but through me sitting on it and it actually just collapsing. So a couple of adjustments made. These now seem to be good as gold. Again, won't know until I'm on a bumpy field whether they do anything, whether they break on the first bounce, whether they impale my rectum, who knows. But like I say, £6 each, look to be doing a job. But anyway, that was my first purchase. It's been a lot of grinding, sanding, painting, measuring, remeasuring, measuring again, because twice is never enough, it seems. Building it up, taking it apart, building it back up again, taking it apart again. This is where I've left it. And what I'm going to do now is loosely build it all back up again for two reasons. One, I can run the time lapse and it might look quite cool at the end of the video with you being able to see what potentially the finished product is going to look like. And two, I will then make notes of exactly what is left to do, what are sort of half finished jobs, what's left to buy, what's left to print. Basically, having it there in front of me, built up as much as it can be, will be a good place for me to start doing a checklist. So anyway, I'm going to shut up for a second and let you enjoy this build time lapse. So that is as far as I'm going to go tonight on that. As you can see, it's come on quite a way. I'm going to stop here because these mud flaps are really fiddly to put on. So I could probably do another half an hour's worth of time-lapse video just trying to get these things on. It's not complicated, it's just fiddly and awkward, and I keep fumbling things. Anyway, I'll give you a quick whiz around while I make notes of the things I noticed. First and foremost, probably a bit dark to see under there, I should have mentioned, since rattling on about what I've got while I was in the car, since then I have actually got a lovely top hat courtesy of a really nice guy called Gareth from the British Lawnmower Racing Association, and I am continuing with the 3D printed one, but this was a real stroke of luck because the pulley that I've sent off to be bored out to fit my 3D printed top hat the fabricator's gone on holiday and has still got the pulley, and I have no idea whether it's been done or if it's just sitting somewhere on a shelf. Anyway, no need now, because I got this, the axle, the T-drive, the hubs, the new wheels, the top hat, all from Gareth, and they're absolutely spot on. So thank you very much for that. That was perfect timing and is the only reason I managed to get this far with it. First job I noticed, I am definitely going to, if space will allow it, try and raise the brake caliper slightly. It does fit, but as you possibly saw from the time lapse, it was a real fiddle to get this whole back section in and out because it's so tight. But I do think I've got room to raise it, maybe only like 5 mil, something like that. Just give me that extra little bit of clearance. It's also worth noting this top hat and pulley will actually drop by about 10 to 12 millimeters thanks to some low profile nuts and bolts that I've got on the way to me to replace the existing ones, which this actually sort of sits on top of at the moment, so it's restricting how low I can position it. So again, sorry it's very dark in there, you probably can't see anything I'm pointing at, but I'm trying to explain what I mean. So that was one job I noticed I've definitely got to do. Second one is this other mud flat. Before I fit it, I've got to trim away a little bit of bodywork here so that can slot nicely into there. Foot plates have all got to be done. I'm not going to list like the big main jobs because they're obvious. I've got to link the fuel tank to the engine. Oh, the engine's another thing I don't think I mentioned that I got. So that was courtesy of Kenny from British Lawnmower Racing Association. So thank you very much, dude. Nice Lonsin 413. So I've got to do all the electrics into the engine, battery, the control panel on the dash, fuel hoses, all of those. But they're major jobs, so that wasn't the purpose of this build, because I knew I had to do all those. The purpose of this build was to try and work out the little things that needed attention. Was there anything around the front? Oh yes, I need to, actually let me show around the other side. I think I've got better lighting on this side. I need to trim a bit more away from this upright that mounts the front end on, because if I'm turning full lock to the right, it fouls with the track rod there. And then I've got my clutches here ready to go in. This bright orange clutch, all the springs and stuff are on that desk over there, but the system is all ready with this lever. So I've got to fit all of that, but again, that's a job I knew about. So I think I'm pleasantly surprised. I think most of what I expected to be done is done. Ignore these. These were 3D printed prototypes for foot plates. I'll give you a better look at everything with the glare. I'm really chuffed with how it looks. If it drives 90% as well as it just stands there, I'll be very pleased. Oh, mud guards, by the way, are going to come up and out like that, so they'll follow this line forwards but sort of arch back in there, so I've got a nice sort of lip over the top for any mud spraying that way. And I think I will wrap things up here, because I've gone on for hours in this video and it's probably been extremely boring for everybody, because I didn't get as much racing footage as I'd have liked, and I wasn't racing myself. So that is what the future of these videos is hopefully going to be. So with that, I shall thank you all very much for watching and hope to see you on the next one.